Appreciate the invite and the opportunity. My name is Ryan Christie. I'm with Instrumentation and Controls, and we are the local representative for Anderson Hauser, the Instrumentation and Process Solutions Company, based out of Greenwood, Indiana in the US, and then global headquarters in Rheinach, Switzerland. And with me, I brought on board Mr. Nick Hansen. He's our water and wastewater industry manager for the West. And he'll be talking a little bit about some of the newer digital technologies that are coming down the pipe, so to speak, from E&H. So Instrumentation and Controls, company's been around for about 30 plus years. It's founded by electrical engineer, just kind of fitting the need in the Phoenix area, and the company has since expanded to cover most of the Southwest. About 2 years ago, we acquired a company called Tabco, and that got us into the valve and process control world. So at any given day, whether it's a power plant or a wastewater facility, we spend quite a bit of time throughout the entire process, not just instrumentation. But for today's presentation, we are going to obviously focus in on water applications, a few new products we have to talk about. One of them is what we call the 0DN or unrestricted mounting mag meter, and we'll talk about the principle and construction around that device. Similarly, there is now an ultrasonic clamp-on style flow meter with reduced straight run requirements. We'll talk about that device. Then I'll hand it over to Nick. He'll talk about digital commissioning, what that looks like this day and age, cloud access as it's related to digital commissioning, and more specifically, taking the commissioning package that, say, a system integration company would put together and how that's handed off to the end user and the end user tools that are available. And we'll briefly touch on what's called Netillion Water Network Insights, and it's kind of a community water monitoring idea concept. So we'll touch on that, share an example or two. And then we'll close it out with some of the additional low power IIoT, so industrial Internet of Things devices, low power cloud accessible devices. Instrumentation and Controls, as I mentioned, covers all the process, gives you a little snapshot into what we're focused in. A lot of instrumentation from Anderson Hauser, Kerr's thermal mass, MSA gas detection, number of valves and actuators. If there's any questions about this, of course, my contact information will be included. Here's our facility. The warehouse is located in Chandler, Arizona. We do have the ability to rebuild valves. There's a nice 24-inch knife gate that I think came out of one of Freeport and Morin's facilities, and we have a full staff of instrumentation techs. So the solutions extend not only from the products, but the services we provide as well. So moving into Anderson Hauser, the E&H world, the E&H portfolio. A lot of people in the water market understand E&H as an instrumentation company, and rightfully so. They got their start with level measurement and have since expanded the portfolio to cover all of the process measurements, majority of the process measurements. Of course, there's a select few that E&H still doesn't do. But they do flow level, analytical, pressure, and a number of system products. And as of late, they've moved more into the solutions world. And when we talk about solutions, a lot of the solutions that are packaged for water facilities now have to do with digital data. What's available? How do we access it? What's the importance? And how do we use this data for more predictive and preventative measures? So moving into what we're going to talk about today. So the first product that E&H patented and released, I think maybe two and a half years ago now, is built for reduced straight run requirements. This device is a magnetic flow meter. And what it did is it took the convention of needing to have straight run requirements to create a laminar homogeneous flow profile so you get a nice, consistent, accurate reading, and built out a hardware solution that reduces those straight run requirements. So convention is 5 pipe diameters upstream and 2 pipe diameters downstream. And again, that's to have a nice laminar homogeneous flow profile, because traditional mag meters have measuring electrodes on either side. So there's only one electrode on either side, inducing a voltage that is proportional to the flow velocity. And what happens when there's turbulence in the pipe is that voltage that's induced gets disturbed, and then the signal that's uptaken by the transmitter itself becomes what we call noisy or inaccurate, and therefore you get a lot of chatter in your signal output. It's a common enough issue that E&H put a lot of R&D into. You know, what is a solution going to look like? Is it going to be fancy software, fancy firmware, or is there going to be some sort of hardware solution that takes care of it no matter the type of installation, and something that's more robust, of course, you know, regardless of the pressures and the temperatures and the flow rates we're talking about. E&H wanted to develop a meter that can handle multiple different installations, and also didn't have any sort of physical restrictions within the meter itself. The full built-out solution does maintain a full bore, and therefore there are no pressure losses. So giving a little insight into what this new flow solution looks like, on the right-hand side, you can see the meter itself. And if you're familiar with E&H equipment, there is what's called the W sensor body, the ProLine ProMag W for water, built for water applications. Right here you can see a polyurethane liner. The form factor, the construction, the dimensions are all the same. So from an engineering perspective, it can be a drop-in-place meter. And the newer components can be seen on the side here. We have 1, 2, and 3 measuring electrodes on each side. So a total of 6 measuring electrodes, which allows for more averaging of the flow profile. So if you think about getting turbulent flow, non-homogeneous flow, essentially what the meter is doing is it's taking more information and it's averaging the different flow profiles. On the left-hand side, kind of gives you an idea, even though this isn't fully bolted in, the concept is that pipe bends, any sort of pipe bends in any axis, X, Y, Z axis, the meter can handle much easier. And again, no pressure losses. And we do maintain the accuracy that you get from the normal W meter. So 0.5% of reading can be paired with any transmitter. So 3, 4, 500 series transmitter, depending on the type of IO you may need. And of course, area classifications. Every transmitter is available. There is a newer transmitter, the 10 series, that is Bluetooth capable for configuration and running diagnostics via Bluetooth. Not listed here, but that one is available as well. Nominal diameters from 1 inch all the way up to 120 inches. I think our largest installation to date, Nick, maybe you can correct me here, but I think it's 108 inches coming out of Lake Houston in Texas.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so yeah, 108 inches, can definitely drive a pickup truck through that one. So the technology has been proven across all the nominal sizes available from E&H. And as far as process conditions, welded or lap joint. So these 0DN unrestricted mag meters, a lot of times they're specified for retrofit applications. And we're looking at how to fit a mag meter, you know, in a tight constrained area. And piping is there. It's already installed. The flanges are there. They're available. But if you get a meter with welded flanges, sometimes those bolt holes don't line up perfectly. So that's what a lap joint. That's where a lap joint would come in and help with solving that issue. If there's bolt holes that don't line up, what lap joint flanges are is they're just non-welded flanges along the sensor body itself, so they're able to rotate. So if you have bolt holes that are off by just a little bit, you can line those bolt holes up and get that meter to be mated to those flanges. Liners, just like our normal mag meter, we do have polyurethane. It's kind of the go-to in the water market. Hard rubber, go-to for wastewater applications, and PTFE for any of the chemically invasive applications. and IP68. So a lot of times these meters are below grade, whether they're in a vault or they're directly buried. There are IP68 options, fully welded, epoxy coated flow meters. So taking a look at some of the pain points that we're accustomed to when trying to retrofit applications or fit mag meters where generally they weren't allowed or they weren't installed and reading accurately. Pipe ends, very common, create a lot of vortices coming around these corners. Insertion devices, and insertion devices, sometimes you don't think about it, but buildup kind of has the same effect as an insertion device. So if you have corrosion that's built up on the inside of the pipe, that can create turbulence as well. And if you're thinking long term, excuse me, down the road, corrosion may not be here day one, but corrosion, of course, builds up over time. So forward thinking, if it is a service that is going to be subject to corrosion, something to keep in mind, how that flow profile is going to change over time. Another disturbed flow profile from nominal diameter differences, again, common in retrofit applications. T-fittings and misaligned piping. Misaligned piping is more common than maybe we want to admit. You know, nothing's perfect out there in the process world. So that's the unrestricted mag meter from E&H. It is the W series for water applications. And again, no straight run requirements upstream, no straight run requirements downstream. Very flexible as far as retrofits are concerned. So staying along that same logic, that same use case, E&H put some thought into applications that you can't use a mag meter. So anything that has low conductivity, you know, think about ultra pure water, or applications where we can't cut into the pipe itself and get a flow tube in there. Any of those types of applications, you start to look at ultrasonic flow meters, the clamp-on style. And generally speaking, for clamp-on ultrasonic flow meters, you need quite a bit more straight run requirements. Convention being 15 pipe diameters upstream and 5 downstream. That's a lot of straight run. That can be a lot of cost for piping itself. Not to mention the labor to install. So E&H took a look at their ultrasonic solutions and put together a device that uses multiple transducers as well as some more robust firmware to average more of the flow profile, very similar to the mag meter, effectively taking more information and doing more with that information. So the new ProSonic P500 kind of fits the same form factor as far as straight run requirements as the mag meter we were talking about. The only caveat being that you do need 2 pipe diameters upstream and 2 pipe diameters downstream. Sizes are available from 1/2 inch to 160 inches. And effectively what we're doing is we're averaging the 2 sensor sets independent of the sensor positioning. So when you think about a clamp-on flow meter, you can do direct signal passing back and forth. You can do the reflect mode, as you see in this photo here, and it gives you the flexibility based off your retrofit or installation, how you want to set up those transducers. The firmware is called Flow DC, and it's compensation of average measurement for different use cases. Again, the 90-degree elbows, pipe extenders, reducers, and the like. And the measurement deviation is back to specified range of accuracy. So effectively what we're doing is we're taking any of these uncertainties and we're bringing it right back into the measurement error that we're looking for. Couple different versions of this style of flow meter. The aluminum housing is available for 99% of our applications, but of course there is a harsh environment style as well. Probably not going to see very often in Arizona, but think about anything overseas, not overseas, sorry, in the seas. So if there's a platform application, salty sailing environments, this transmitter is built for. So we'll try playing this quick overview here. Let's see if this works.
If there's supposed to be audio, it's not playing. And there's when you share, there's an up arrow and there should be there's a button right next to it that says include computer sound. Do you see that? Is that clicked on? Perfect. Can hear it now. There you go.
So hopefully that was helpful to kind of give us an idea of the form makeup and the functionality of the P500. Let's see here. Next one, no, I'll play that again. So before I hand it back over to Nick, because there's so many different options in the E&H portfolio, and we're working with flow meters quite often. I just wanted to give a nice snapshot of all the different transmitter options. We talked about flow tubes and transducers and sensors. But when we get down to installing the meter itself and communicating, we're talking about the transmitter. So the transmitter being the device right on top, the flow tube or the sensor body is underneath. So the transmitter is what's effectively doing all the transmitting, the work of taking the signal itself and doing something with it. So more on the lower end, we have solutions that are blind without local readout, for example, for skid manufacturers. We have 2-wire devices. We have more robust industrious devices for class 1 div 1 environments. And the 300 series and the 500 series are effectively the same transmitter, the 500 just being the remote mount version. And then what we'll see commonly in the water and wastewater market is the optimized 400 series transmitter. It's optimized for weight and for userability. So whereas the 3 and the 500 series, they have multiple IO. As you can see, there's a lot of different IO options, and they can come with more than one output. So you could do a digital output and an analog output with the 3 and the 500 series. The 400 series, it can do digital or analog, so you have to choose at the time of ordering. Web server, so there is a web server available on everything but the 2-wire device. So when we're thinking about configuring instruments, it's much easier to pull up a web server, connect into the instrument that way, use your laptop, than to be pointing around on the transmitter itself. Wireless LAN, similarly, if you want to connect to the transmitter without having to plug in with an RJ45 or a Cat5 cable into the RJ45 port, wireless LAN is available on the 3 and 500 series. And one of the more common industrial digital protocols that's being used often is Ethernet IP, and Ethernet IP is available on everything but the 2-wire device. But not for long. Pretty soon it'll be available on 2-wire too. And configurable IO, as I mentioned, if that's a need, if we need to have a digital bus going in one direction and an analog or a field selectable output, those can both be configured with the 3 and the 500, 3 and 500 transmitter. So that's all I had on the 2 hardware devices. I'm gonna hand it over to Nick, and he's gonna talk a little bit about digitalization and digital commissioning throughout the plant.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So as the Western Regional Water Wastewater guy for E&H, I've come across all variations of drinking water facilities, wastewater facilities, end users, operators, you name it. So I can definitely empathize when this conversation comes up about digitalization and how not everyone's quite thinking about it yet. But just bear with me here. We're going to take a kind of quick high-level overview of what digitalization means for us at E&H. And to start off, I kind of want to compare it to our daily lives. So as many people have experienced, we used to personally get our email, in the form of a letter, or we used to get our news in the form of a newspaper, physical media, or you could say in a more traditional sense, analog media. And now we have connected devices like our cell phones, computers, tablets, even things like doorbells that record video for us when we get packages delivered. So we're getting more and more connected throughout our personal lives. And so the way that relates to us in the industrial world is just how we view that same digitalization, coming into the professional arena. So just kind of have that mindset as I talk through this, to think about how, we're moving from a traditional point measurement device to now a connected device that can give us more data than what we've previously utilized. So this first slide is just kind of talking about how we really want to approach this digitalization topic throughout the whole life cycle of a project, of a end user, of a facility, you name it. So we see benefits in everything from the planning phase of a project, through procurement, commissioning, eventually handing it over to operations, and the whole life cycle management. So just a quick overview of that. Ryan, if you could advance to the next one, please. So to start things off, one of the tools that we're bringing to market, so we've made a name for ourselves on the hardware side, which Ryan just reviewed some of the latest and greatest. But in terms of the software tools that we want to bring to market on this digital side, the first one up is this digital commissioning app. So the digital commissioning app can be leveraged for a wide array of different functions within an organization. So this first example is talking towards project managers. So as a device or a process comes online, whether it's a new process or a retrofit process within your own facilities or remote sites, a project manager could view those individual tag numbers, whether it be our instruments or another vendor's instrument, a valve, whatever kind of tag you want to assign it as. But basically, there can be checklists as part of that project where a PM could go through and basically use that as their asset tracking tool. A lot of people do that currently with third-party devices or third-party tools and software, but we just want to be able to offer that first party as well. And Ryan, if you could advance just the next visual. So part of that, you can see how this checklist or this visual of these devices coming online, you can quickly see tag numbers, quick information related to said devices, and then who might be responsible for bringing those online. And then Ryan, if you could hit it one more. At the end of the day or the end of the project, you could see if anything was needing more attention. So you could manually or live see what devices require an operator or a technician to go out and troubleshoot or configure further. So the digital commissioning app is aimed at bringing tools to our contractor partners, our integrator partners, or even the end users directly. But as Ryan mentioned in the beginning, taking what we can provide up front on a project and taking some of those deliverables that a contractor might be providing you at the the handover point, making that all digital so that when it does get handed over, it's already within your own system or within the cloud. It's easy to manage, nothing gets lost. There's no paper forms or binders that might get damaged or lost. So just kind of addressing that part of the project. And Ryan, if you could hit next. Another part of that too is the library function within. So you could quickly see or have access to all of the startup and commissioning documents required. So, an as found and an as left calibration, say for a pressure transmitter, or a verification report for a flow meter. All those things can be stored within this digital commissioning app so that when it does get handed over eventually, it's already all there combined in a nice, neat package for you. And then transitioning from the project manager aspect to now a technician aspect, you can utilize the same app and same tools, like I kind of already alluded to, is to go back in, make any modifications required, use it as a kind of a Maximo checklist to go in and see what needs attention, and then to progress to a fully functioning facility. Ryan, if you could hit next. This just shows more of that same kind of visual representation of what might be shown as a critical issue or something that needs to be looked at, and then finally the completion status. And then just more checklists that we can institute or help facilitate the closure of a project so that nothing gets forgotten or left behind. And then finally, the live view that you can access any device, whether it's E&H or a third-party vendor, to make those configuration changes, settings adjustments, scaling the outputs. All that can be done through the same digital tools that were shown here. And actually, this visual of the tablet, this Windows tablet, is a first-party device by E&H as well, which we market as a kind of a heart handheld communicator replacement, but it runs these digital tools to make your life easier. So with that in mind, like I said, I wanted to, I guess, set up this conversation with, thinking about digitalization and how it's migrating from our personal lives into our professional lives. We have a product called Netillion. So this is a cloud-based software that is really aimed at making use and taking more advantage of the data that already exists within our facilities from devices like what E&H produce, from other devices that other manufacturers produce. So basically, instead of just relying on the primary measured variable from, say, a flow meter or a level transmitter, we want to really tap into the diagnostic information and all of the other smart data that these instruments can provide that currently are underutilized, whether it's PLC constraints or historian constraints on I/O, et cetera, et cetera. So Ryan, if you could hit one more advancement. So yeah, really the added value with Netillion is to kind of side load the local control system with Netillion to only monitor the diagnostic information and the secondary variables, tertiary variables, if applicable, to make sure that we are viewing the device as it relates to its health, as it relates to its maintenance requirements, giving you predictive maintenance alerts. So if things need attention or calibration, like analytical equipment, say for instance, a pH probe. So the value add here is instead of trying to instead of trying to replace your current SCADA or control system with more software or bundle it with more software, Netillion is really aimed at just taking only the diagnostic information, serving it to you in a meaningful way so that you can act on it. Operations techs, SCADA technicians, whoever can make meaningful, impactful decisions based on that information that's currently not coming back in through the PLC structure. Hit next, please. So talking about what makes up Netillion. So Netillion is just a name we came up with to call this product. But within Netillion, we have various modules or applications. So the first being analytics. So this view and the screens that you saw flash up there is all part of this app called Analytics. And if we had devices connected through Netillion to pull that diagnostic information, we could quickly tell you, a snapshot of your facility or remote site or plant that says, hey, you've got this many level devices, this many analytical. You could assign criticality to these devices so that if you had a measurement that made the process depend on it, you'd make sure that it was assigned a critical tag, and then it's being viewed more readily than other devices. But the nice thing about this analytics portion as well is that if it's an E&H device, because all of our serial number information and our order information in terms of spare parts availability, phase out, order stoppage, all that information is available online. If this is connected to an E&H device, all that information can be displayed for you here. So on that far right image, it's showing you which devices currently are available or in good status with the blue, and then which devices might be currently in phase out period or have actually been order stopped, which just gives you a quick indication of if my plant has a bunch of old devices that don't or aren't supported anymore. So if that whole pie chart was red, you would know that you couldn't get spare parts for a lot of your devices. Next slide, please. Transitioning away from the analytics app to the library app within Netillion, this looks very, very similar to the digital commissioning app, which you already seen, but it just gives you that quick access to any documents or files pertinent to each device within the facility. So you can have a photo of the exact device if you wanted to. That's just a generic photo on the display now. But you could have a physical or a photo of the physical location. You could have the tag name and number, all the configuration data, all the calibration data. Whenever a technician would touch it, you could have that information stored here within the library. So it's a great asset management tool as well. Transitioning again to Netillion Health as part of the various applications within Netillion. Health gives you a quick overview of what is in good health, as the name suggests, what might need to be addressed. So what devices are in fault or alarm or require maintenance. So if you were to show up at work one day and pull up this version or this app within Netillion, if all your devices are in the green check mark box, then you can drink a cup of coffee and have a great morning. If you've got a few devices in the red alarm box there, then you actually know what you should be kind of thinking about first. So it's a nice quick shot of what's happening, what might be needing some attention. Yeah, and these further screens just kind of dive in deeper. So if something is within fault or error, it will actually give you a remedy-based description of what to check. So that image there in the middle shows at the bottom the remedy. So corrosion detected on the sensor for a mag meter is what the example was for. So instead of just giving you an error code and making you go dig through a manual to find what that means, it's going to give you actual text information to troubleshoot further. And then also within the Netillion apps is what we call value, which is kind of a SCADA type view of your facility. So we can pull in that primary variable if needed. And just giving you quick access to measured variables. So if you had like a remote site where you had one flow meter, one level transmitter, and a valve, say, you could see the current position of everything from the app. And Netillion is viewable from just a URL web page, so you can get it on your phone, on your computer, wherever you might be. And to talk about security, so one of the questions that always comes up with any cloud-based software, professionally or personally, is how are we addressing security? So we do adhere to an ISO standard 27001 for digital security. I'm not a securities expert, but we are fully encrypting the messages from the device level to the Netillion cloud. And just know that there is no data that can be pushed from Netillion back to the device in terms of configuration that would make any alteration locally. So all that configuration would have to be done on site, whether it's hardwired or wirelessly via WLAN or Bluetooth. But anything that's connected to the cloud via Netillion is only a one-way street. And this is a good point to make a distinction between the various options of Netillion. So we can have Netillion be live, where this information is being transmitted to the cloud, or we can have an offline version where you only utilize apps within Netillion, such as library, to keep track of various documents and things that may have been carried over from the digital commissioning tool from your integrator or contractor. So you can have one version of Netillion that's strictly offline, not connected to the internet, and then one that is fully. So depending on your comfort level and how the IT is structured within your own organizations, we can tailor it to suit. Go ahead to the next one. And then piggybacking off of that conversation on Netillion, we recognize that there are instances where there are remote facilities or collection systems, distribution systems, source water sampling sites where there's currently maybe no instrumentation or no smart data coming from any of that. That might be a site that you physically have to drive out to and make grab samples or make measurements on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis. So Netillion Water Network Insights is geared at giving you a hardware and a software package that you could quickly deploy into those systems and see that data come back. Not only does it carry the advantages of Netillion that we've just discussed, but it can give you real-time information such as water, from rain or snow, if you had sensors that were monitoring for that with, via flow or level. So integrating live data like the weather with live measurements can give you real-time information about how much source water you have available to you, and if you might be encountering a drought scenario, for instance. So Netillion Water Network Insights is just a packaged a bundle, I would say, with some of our hardware and the software side to give you something nice to run a remote facility. And this video is just going to go quickly through that that conversation. And I would just challenge you that even if you're not thinking about this right now within your own organization, if this is a conversation that hasn't even come up because of security reasons or whatever, I would just challenge you to think about this, how maybe this might benefit you in the future, or if you started to have this conversation, why this might work over others. So yeah, just take a look at this video. And Ryan, I think the sound is missing again. Since the sound is missing, I'll narrate for you guys. But this is just talking about how within various water treatment or collection agencies, we have all of our various sources. So whether it's from a stream or runoff, a river, or a reservoir, we're all in the business of transporting water, filtering said water if needed, disinfecting the water, and then eventually distributing it to our customers or to the next facility. And there are many data points along that process where you may have information coming back or you may not. And part of that Water Network Insight bundle is to take some of these data points and give you devices that are remotely connected to feed it into Netillion.
Individuals to read the measured data and enable specific, timely, and correct.
And there's the sound, so you should hear it now.
Furthermore, the huge amount of decentrally collected measurement data was difficult to handle, which is why a large part of the data remained unused. Netillion Water Network Insights changes that. It offers all data at one click. The cloud-based monitoring solution eliminates the need for costly fieldwork, sampling, or searching for leaks. All measuring points, values, and system notifications are displayed directly on your screen. Completely individualized, no matter what your process looks like.
Our service not only provides you a live overview of the entire network, but also includes further information, such as the weather forecast. The inclusion of such contextual information allows an integrated approach, for example, for an optimized availability forecast. Based on continuous analysis of current, historical, and predicted information, the service can issue an alert or warning if, for example, the minimum night flow increases significantly and or leakages. Continuous and integrated analysis and monitoring of your system enables this smart service to support you and ease your workload.
Optimize and automate your water networks anywhere, anytime with Netillion Water Network Insights.
Hey, Nick, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Good call. Thank you, Michael. So yeah, this video is a good primer. So just as I mentioned, keep in mind as we progress, maybe 5 years down the road, this will become more commonplace in our market. But yeah, just know that E&H is thinking forward, and we want to be leaders in the industry for this kind of approach to digitalization, not only with our hardware devices, but via the software tools that we can provide as well. And so I'll hand it back to Ryan to finish out with some of the IoT devices that they offer.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. You guys hear me okay now? Sounds coming through, good deal. So yeah, to bring it full circle, of course, we're always going to need devices and sensors out in the field to collect our data. I think that's the one part of this equation that we're always going to have to use our vision senses with, as much as we want to make things smaller and reduced, you still got to get the measurement itself. So the instruments are always going to be around. But what we can do with the instruments is make them more effective, more efficient. So I just got a couple devices to kind of give you an idea and get your mind thinking about, well, what do these devices look like? If there's a gateway, so to speak, built into these devices, what sort of form factor do they take? So E&H took a very common level measuring device using free space radar. This one here is called the FWR30, and it's 80 gigahertz free space radar device, wireless commissioning and diagnostics via the Netillion app. So effectively, you can use a smartphone or a tablet to commission and run diagnostics. And there's a built-in gateway as well as a battery pack. So we don't need any wires to not only operate the device, but to communicate with the device itself. So you're getting information sent directly to the cloud. There's a battery that's powering the sensor, and it can be mounted pretty much anywhere you would use this type of device. A very common application are chemical totes, where you're measuring through a polymer based tote, and you use the conductive surface of the fluid itself to get your reflection and therefore your level. So that's one device from E&H that helps kind of solve that challenge of using a sensor to get information to the cloud in an efficient manner. One other device I'm going to share is actually manufactured by another company called Signalfire that E&H has partnered with on multiple different types of projects. And the reason E&H has utilized this device is it's a nice compact solution to get information from, say, a 420 device directly up to the cloud. And that's what Signalfire does. Signalfire manufactures wireless telemetry equipment that utilizes a battery pack as well as a gateway itself to not only power low power devices, but then send information up to the cloud. So you can either do radio or you can do cellular itself as far as the data transmission. There is a cloud platform that Signalfire develops. So it is, kind of a soup to nuts packaged solution. But you don't have to use Signalfire's cloud. You can also utilize your own cloud or the cloud of your choosing. And outside of that, Signalfire does have a few other devices that have the sensor built in itself. But really what they're trying to accomplish with this device is to be able to pair it and maintain it brand agnostic with the measuring solution you want to use. So whether it's E&H or it's any other manufacturer, this is your gateway and your ability to get to the cloud directly using radio or cellular technology. I think that might be it. So Nick, unless you have anything else to share, definitely appreciate everybody's time. And if there's any questions, the contact information for Nick and myself are available on the first slide of the presentation.
Yeah, and I would just close out saying that we at E&H are very forward thinking in terms of not only developing our own products, but taking feedback from you guys as the customer. So not only if you have questions, but if you have feedback for us or suggestions on things that we may want to address in terms of a hardware or software solution or things that you're looking for, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. We're taking that feedback constantly, and Ryan is well suited for that as well. So definitely reach out with any questions or comments, feedback to IAC. And just thanks for your guys' time.
Well, thank you guys. And I think that AZ Water has a convention coming up in March of 2022. Mm-hmm. Is that correct, Shauna?
It's April. Yeah, our
April,
annual
okay.
conference is, it's April 11th through the 14th. It's that week. And you guys, this would be great if you guys are interested in being exhibitors and showing off some of this stuff in person, if you can get to the Phoenix Convention Center. And yeah, it's a great place for a lot of learning and idea exchanging. We get, thousands of people locally. So yeah, this was fantastic presentation. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Good. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Okay, all right, we'll
Thank
see
you.
ya.
Bye.